Hello and welcome. My name is Emily Prieto, and I'm the co-host of the Seeds of Tao podcast alongside my husband, Joshua Prieto. We're also the co-owners of the Seeds of Tao education platform and incubator for regenerative entrepreneurs. If you're new to the podcast, this is a podcast for impact entrepreneurs creating regenerative enterprises. We often get asked what exactly a regenerative enterprise or impact entrepreneur is. So if you're wondering, a regenerative enterprise builds triple bottom line profits through the practice of ethics and principles that lead to a more inclusive, fair, and balanced economy. Impact entrepreneurs, or regenpreneurs, as we sometimes like to call them, are those willing and able to take on the financial and personal risks of starting and building regenerative enterprises. You'll get to know exactly what all that means as you join us for this and future episodes, but know that we welcome everyone to join us as we work to build regenerative economies together. That's exactly why we are here doing what we do at Seeds of Tao. Our mission is to help establish regenerative economies in every bioregion by serving individual regenpreneurs like yourself. In this podcast, you'll hear the startup stories in all their glory from impact entrepreneurs all over the globe. You'll learn and grow the skills of building a regenerative enterprise from your peers, mentors, and leaders. Finally, we'll get to know each other as you engage in the podcast and join the wonderful Regenerative Business Economies Network, aka RegenBen, an open community where peers, colleagues, funders, allies, and supporters of regenpreneurs come together to build and the regenerative economies of the future. Join us every month for a wonderful episode as we collectively move beyond sustainability and into our regenerative future. It all starts now.
Welcome to the Seeds of Tao Podcast. I have Paulinho Muzaliwa. Am I saying that right, Paulinho?
Yeah.
Or vaguely saying it right. You know, my tongue is different, and so it takes me a little bit to say different pronunciations. So thank you for joining us. It's my morning, but what time is it where you're at in Africa?
Now it's 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay, so it's your later day. You've gone through the day. This is perfect. We can kind of get a good understanding of what your day went like today. What got you up this morning?
Sorry, come again.
What got you up this morning? What is the thing that got you up this morning?
So I think this morning has been lots of meetings that I need to catch up, but also writing some reports. So this is how I spent all my day since the morning. But now, after this call, I will be in my gardens.
Oh, okay. Spending the evening in your garden. So I know you have lots of different things that you're working on, and for the audience, just to kind of give them a sense of that work. First, let's start off like what gets you excited to do the work that you do, and then tell us more about that work. Tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Unidor Social Innovation Center, a led refugee organization that's focusing on empowering young refugees through inclusive entrepreneurial skills to enable them create their own opportunities, and doing regenerative agriculture to improve the livelihood of refugees. So what is exciting me to do my work is that I'm directly involved in this work, or we have faced different consequences that has inspired me and motivated me to work hard in order to survive in the space that I am.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's really so. A lot of us here are in the regenerative space don't necessarily have that perspective of this work that we're doing. It's helping us to survive in a really difficult situation and really thrive in something that's a really difficult situation as well, where we're kind of, it's a lot of times we come into regeneration in my culture where I'm from in the States as a hobby, like gardening, right? And so it's a different perspective when you see how regeneration and permaculture can be used in a setting of a refugee camp compared to I'm just doing this as a hobby on the garden. So kind of help us understand how that's been impactful to you, and how you kind of came into this work. What got you involved in starting this program for the refugee camp?
Yeah, I think regeneration didn't be my passion until we have faced hunger crisis and malnutrition then. So can we imagine receiving $3 per month of food rationing every month, and every day you are facing hunger crisis and malnutrition? So this has motivated me and to work hard until regeneration, not only in agriculture, but it become a habit in thinking, in the way I'm thinking, and also the way everything that I'm doing, I try to include regeneration in it, because I've realized that it's the only solution that can be applied in such area of refugee camp. For example, in growing food. So I didn't know how to grow food, but when the COVID came and we've been in the lockdown, so this has been a something or a tools that I could use in order to survive in refugee camp, grow food in a regenerative way. And doing this as a habit, this has become my passion, and this has become something that I love the most and try to spread around the refugee camp.
That's beautiful. So you didn't get into, how did you come about the idea of regeneration? Was it during your time in the refugee camp, or where were you taught these principles?
As I always say, I always share that refugees are people who are the most affected by poverty, climate change, war, insecurity from their countries. And reaching here in refugee camp, these people are the most creative people, people who are ready to innovate something out of nothing. And I've realized that living in a learning area, or living in an area like refugee camp where you work every morning and you don't have any guarantee to have food or to regenerate money. So this, you are wake up every morning and you are motivated to look way on how you're going to survive. And due to all this work that refugees are doing, so they're doing incredible work that is impacting people, impacting our fellow refugees. And yet they don't have this ability or access to attend this sense-making conversation to show to the world what they are able to do in order to create a new story for humanity. So I think regeneration, for me, I have studied this because of when we have entered in the lockdown, and I didn't know where to look after food. I've seen families or children facing malnutrition just because of lack of food. You are telling your child, your children, to go to bed without eating, without your willing. So I can understand everyone has its different aspects to define hunger, but hunger for me is when you are telling someone that, or you go to bed without eating and without your willingness. So this is hunger. You go to bed without eating because didn't have, didn't have this chance to have food.
Right. It's a very different conversation than I have with my child when they say they're hungry. Right. I don't think they've ever really experienced that type of situation, and to that type of hunger can lead to understanding, right? Whereas we often get, I would say, displacement, or we don't realize and look for solutions that are maybe the very the most beneficial, because we don't have the drive to do it, right? That hunger can produce a passion and light a fire within you to, I have to do this, right? This means so much more, and I could feel that within the way that you're sharing this. Yeah,
I've realized that when you are in a hard situation, or you are in danger, this is where you start being creative, not that you look a way that you survive, because you, at the last point, you realize that your life is matter. So if you don't do something, no one will do it at your place, and if no one will not do it at your place, so you will end up to die.
Yes. There's a definite need, and then that can lift into the strong desire to make the change. So you found kind of regenerative principles and started applying them during the COVID time to help people find food. Tell us a little bit more about how that was for you during COVID, because it impacted everybody differently, right? But for a refugee camp, what does that look like to be going through COVID? Was there how was the food supply changed? How was families interrupted by that? And could you even interact with others within the camp? And yeah, what did that look like for you guys?
So when reaching in refugee camp, so we are used to get we are used to get 12 kilograms of maize, 2 kilograms of beans, and 1 liter of oil as a food ration every month before the COVID. And then when the COVID started and we get in the lockdown, so we get a notice that the World Food Program is running out of funds, and this they are going to decrease on food rationing. So they have shifted from providing food and start providing money, which is roughly almost $3 per month. So can you imagine how can you survive with $3 per month? Even
no, I really can't. That's really I can't really comprehend that. It's really difficult.
And most of refugees have been relying on World Food Program, and this has caused a negative impact because most of people have been every day. They hope that World Food Program will provide food, but the situation has changed. And then this has motivated me to start growing. We get a mini grants from international an organization that has supported me to get a mini grant of $200. So getting $200. So they told me that as we are in the COVID, so look for tools that will allow your community to be safe. And I told them that, so how can I buy tools to protect my community from COVID? Yet people are dying with hunger. So I'm sure that before COVID killing them, hunger will kill them first. So they told me, so what are you suggesting? I told them that we can maybe buy food and distribute to the most vulnerable people here. Because of course we are all refugees, but they are also the most vulnerable. So we use $200 to distribute to 40 families around Naki Valley. But with time, we have realized that the number is increasing to requests for food. And I've realized that, so if we continue in this way, although I get more funds, so we are turning these people into beggars. So instead, we could look a way on how to educating them to grow their own food instead of begging for food. So this is where I've started in 2020, introduced the first permaculture course in Naki Valley. So permaculture has been introduced in Naki Valley in 2020. In 2020, yeah, if you remember well. So we have introduced the first cohorts of 25 people, educate them. And after educating them, we have seen the result on how these people have applied the different design and principle that we taught them. And you see that this is an inadequate solution that we could keep on spreading to the community because it's responding directly to the problem. So we have, these people have inspired other people to grow their own food. And we have keep on educating people daily, up to date. And I can say that I always see regeneration, because regeneration has many definitions. But for me, I consider regeneration as a shifting from humanitarian aid into self-dependence. So this is how I define regeneration in my context on how we have been living in Naki Valley. So, though educating people, but our soul also is not really fertile. So we could look a way on how to regenerate the soul as well. So we sit with the community and discuss what could be a best way, because most of farmers are relying on chemical fertilizer. And, as you are applying chemical fertilizer in your soil, the soil is losing, its nutrients. So came up with an idea of recycling food waste, different markets, and decompose it with the help of worms. And in return, we get an organic fertilizer that we always apply in the soil to boost our food production, but also at the same time regenerates the soil with its nutrients. So now I'm really super excited that we have won the Lush Prize, and due to the work that we have done so far.
Yeah, I saw that. Was it last week or maybe the week before? I saw you holding up your Lush Prize on Facebook.
Let's take a moment for a brief promotional break and talk about the state of our world. There are famines, floods, and fires in our backyards, a global recession affecting our economies, and war and conflict tearing down our relationships with one another. You see it in the news, feel it in your wallet, and talk about it in your social networks. It's hard to think that it doesn't affect you in your personal life and bring you down in your work. Except you want to regenerate our lands, turn our economies into circular ones, and do it in collaboration and community with others. How are you supposed to do that when it seems like everyone's working against you? You're an entrepreneur and you have a business that's going to help us solve these problems and bring these solutions? You're telling me you're going to change people's minds and raise capital for your cause and bring in triple bottom line profits? You must be an optimist, a dreamer, or completely out of touch. Who's going to buy your products or services, take you up on that offer, or help you fund your do-good business? We will. Who are we? We are the Regenerative Business Economies Network, a connected group of impact entrepreneurs, peers, colleagues, funders, allies, and supporters of regenerative enterprise building. Together, we take on the financial and personal risks of building regenerative enterprises. It's all of us together that creates the change we want to see. We must believe in each other and the work we've devoted ourselves to. If you want to be supported and also lend support to impact entrepreneurs like yourself, follow the promotional link in the podcast description or head over to seedsofdao.com and click on Join the Community. With that, let's get back to the episode.
That's a really great moment to kind of see that work kind of come to an understanding of others around you, like what was accomplished, right? And to be given the Lush Prize. So you probably didn't start out with soils that were good for growing your own food, and so you've been using vermicompost and worms to kind of help as an organic fertilizer. What did it start off like when you were doing that first cohort and people were going and doing their own courses? How did you? What was the soil like? Kind of give us an idea of the conditions that you were facing trying to grow your own food.
Yeah, exactly. So last year we have realized that. So when we have been organizing community follow-up, so although applying this different permaculture design for people who have big space and for people who have space, have more space. So most of them have been sharing that so the soil is no longer productive, and if we don't use chemical fertilizer, so we cannot produce nothing. So, and as long as they keep on using this chemical fertilizer, so the harvest is decreasing in every farming cycle. So this is how we conceptualize this idea of starting producing the vermicompost. And we have seen that, okay, there is more, wastes from the markets that have been doing and not usable. So we could recycle it and then put them in a vermicompost site where the worms could decompose it, and in return we get the vermicompost organic fertilizer. And we have tested, and I can say that we have seen great results since we have started doing this. Though it's another challenge because most of people are relying on chemical fertilizer and they don't know the side effects of it. So I think it's gonna be a great way that we should focus on spreading this message to more people who are using chemical fertilizer.
Yeah. So are you? So you're getting these waste, food waste from other supply chains. Where exactly are you getting it within the community, the refugee community itself? Are you going outside of the refugee community too and helping them to reduce food waste and educate them as well on because that's also another side of it is we waste a lot of food and we don't put it back into our nutrient cycles. What is it? You're teaching this within the refugee camp, but is it also kind of spreading out into other areas as well? Where are you getting the food waste from?
We have realized that we cannot regenerate all the lucky valley, but educating people on how to produce more organic vermicompost will help us to spread the word, and people will get awareness of the effects of it in the soil. But also we are planning on redesigning a demonstration farm where people will be visiting and get inspired of all what we have been teaching them. So they have at least a vision of what we want to turn, like a very refugee camp. So our vision is to transform Nike Valley Refugee Camp into a regenerative community where people can have access or can grow abundant food, access to clean water, and also quality education.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's within the community. Not everybody is using organic fertilizers, and so you're trying to also teach them, right? I think it has the power to even spread beyond that as you start to teach the community as well. Those outside of the refugee community can see that, and maybe you can even find ways of getting their waste cycles, so you can increase your production of vermicompost. Sell to that could be. Is it? I know. Trying to think of some others that are using vermicompost in their systems in Africa, and I know that they use it as an education point for waste cycles, right? And there's a lot of waste in restaurants, and there's a lot of waste in other areas. So have you thought about, or is there opportunity for you to get into the waste cycles of the restaurants in the area or outside of the refugee camps, and create a income base to sell the vermicompost outside for income?
So currently we are just focusing on recycled food first from the markets, because the market is a place where more food waste we get access to. So within the community, it's really a hard time to pass through the community and ask for this food waste. But we believe that educating them and raise awareness of it will help them to not throw them, but to recycle it and use it for their benefits and applying them in their gardens.
Right.
And so we also teach about, while educating people, not only focusing on educating people how to produce, the vermicompost, but for these people who want to commercialize this, always teaching them the benefits cost analysis that will help them to know on how they can commercialize the vermicompost for those people who are not able to produce their own. So I think this can be also another way to increase economy, but also to generate money that could respond on other basic needs for refugees.
So how big is the refugee community that you're looking to help to kind of transform over into more regenerative practices with their food?
So Nike Valley Refugee Camp is a home of almost 12,000 families. And,
wow, 12,000 families.
Yeah, from different countries. There are Congolese, there are Rwandese, South Sudanese, Ethiopians, Somalian, and also Eritreans.
Wow.
I think Naki Valley Refugee Camp is part of the old refugee camp around East Africa, but also the second large refugee camp in Uganda.
So there's a huge potential for deploying these principles and affecting generationally, 12,000 families, right? Their children, their children's children, as they adopt new principles of agriculture and life in general, right? And really, there's, I think, a better adoption rate when you actually, like we said in the beginning, have a stronger need for these principles of growing food. and applying it into your life. Okay, so I'm trying to get just a better understanding, because I have no understanding of the refugees and how they work and how they work as a community. But it's like a city in itself, right? A town in itself, and you're all trying to work and help each other and build community, and so that you guys can survive and beyond that thrive into a more regenerative community. What would you say the challenges that you're kind of facing? One is you mentioned right now is education, so that people can adopt this. But what's maybe we can talk more to the education challenge. But what are some of the ways that you're able to solve these challenges? So let's start with the first one. What on top of education, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in implementing these ideas into the community?
So the challenge that I've realized is so most of refugees they come from their home without papers, and this affecting them to compete in job markets. So you cannot they don't have access to job, refugee care. Mm-hmm. And most of jobs that refugees are getting, you need to be an interpreter, a guard. So these are jobs that refugees are getting. But also this also motivates is something that has motivated us to co-create, to sit together and co-create opportunity for us on looking a way to generate money, but also to improve our livelihood.
Right,
so creating job opportunity for us. And I don't know if I forget something else, but ask a question if I didn't respond well on what you have been expecting.
No, that I think that's perfect. And so the challenge of getting a you mentioned translation being a job and then being a guard. And those are pretty jobs that are well needed, right? And so you have to be more creative with the ability to create and stimulate the jobs and things for people to do on in the refugee camp. What are the ways that you have been able to kind of solve that problem with the work that you're doing right now in the regenerative community? How have you gone about trying to solve that problem of the jobs?
Yeah, so we have co-created space for refugees, but also host community also welcome, not only for refugees. So this space is to share knowledge and experience that will allow us to co-create opportunity, and without staying your background or your level of education. So we believe about passion, and this is something that is part of our entrepreneurship session. So reason why we have been needed entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship came just because we didn't have access to job. So learning entrepreneurship has helped us to create opportunity for us, create job opportunity. And we're going to realize that currently there are some refugee organizations that are hiring host communities, give job opportunity to host communities. And it's something great to see this impact of entrepreneurship in refugee settlements. So this has motivated us to create unit of social efficiency. And this space has enabled us to co-create all these projects that we are running. And currently we are hiring almost 10 people at our organization. So these people have access to job opportunity because we sit together at Refugee and think about a way on how we can create something that could enable us to survive or generate income and help us to survive in refugee settlements.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Not only us, but also impact the community. So after training people and come up with idea, know how to identify problems and how to come up with solutions that are adequate to respond to these problems. So we encourage people to pass to actions because you're going to realize that most of people have idea, incredible idea when you hear them. But the difference is to shift from idea to action.
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
Of course, it's not for everyone. First of all, due to lack of funds to prototype idea. Second, the courage of shifting from a comfort zone to a learning zone. So this is the two things that limit people on how to create their own opportunities.
Yeah. I think that's for everybody, right? And regardless of what situation you're in, you can get comfortable or it becomes easy to do one thing rather than go out and learn something new, and it causes you to be vulnerable in a situation of vulnerability where you have no idea what you're doing, and that growth can be. I think everybody has the potential for that growth, but sometimes we recede back into our comfort zones. And so, yeah, you're right. Like helping entrepreneurs to and potential entrepreneurs to overcome that is a huge piece of making and creating the opportunity for the job of creating something together, creating something out of nothing, essentially, or with little resources. Great. Yeah. So the entrepreneurial program, how long has that part been a part of the program that you've been operating? Has that been from the beginning? Or?
It's now 2 years. That's it. We have been focusing on entrepreneurial program.
2 years with the program, and with the entrepreneurial programs, what are some of the ideas that have circulated within the kind of group there and co-creating?
So the first idea that came up was this idea of soap making for women. So they are doing soap, medical soap. They are planting trees, medical trees, and then get leaves of the trees and produce medical soap from the leaves of trees. So if you know a moringa tree, so they use it and make medical soap. Not only medical soap, but also liquid soap and bar soap as well. So the group of women, they are doing it to think best way to generate income for themselves, because like if a refugee came, almost 50% of the population are women. And these people are the most vulnerable in terms of this situation of being displaced. So empowering them, give them this opportunity to be part of the change that you want to see. And we make sure that we empower them with materials, and also starting capital as little as, although it's little, but we are making ourselves, and we dream to a big things that can happen if these people can make a one step ahead, and their action can be visualized into the world. So this can impact a large people of home and refugee here. So this is the best, and we only focusing onto this idea and make sure that it's unfold, so that we go to another one.
So medicinal soaps and bar soaps from the moringa tree is one idea that kind of helped the women start their own entrepreneurial endeavors and support themselves. Did the worms come from the worm and soil generation as well? Come from the think tank, or is that a part of it, part of the farming side, or when did that exist?
Yeah, sure.
That's cool. Go ahead.
So I think this idea of worms also have been come from one of our participants or our beneficiary who came with this idea, and then we sit together to co-create and to help him to shape the project until it's raised. And now currently it's something that really define the real sense of regeneration in Nike Valley Refugee Camp.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. So these entrepreneurial projects are kind of solving this big problem of unemployment and finding work within the community, the refugee community. As we, I think, can get an understanding and I've started to get a better understanding, but there's so much that we can learn about the work that you're doing to help build more entrepreneurial jobs, to help regenerative agriculture and food supply in displaced populations in the refugee camps. But I think for the audience here that's listening, we're all coming from different backgrounds. Your background is a very unique one, but I think it shares a lot of understanding and things that we could learn from as entrepreneurs in general, all over the world, right? And so what I would like to do in this kind of last part of the conversation is to talk about the lessons that you would hope for any entrepreneur that wants to create regeneratively designed businesses and opportunities for themselves. What would you hope that they would take from your story and of the work that you're doing right now?
I think there is so much that people could learn about us, as it's based on everyone. I mean, inspiration of this entire story. And something that maybe I could say is that is to create something out of nothing, and show to the world we cannot only rely on our usual businesses that we are running, and these business that keep on keeping people in poverty and benefiting other parties. But we have a choice to focus on regeneration. Why? Because this gives this a new renaissance. I can say that a new renaissance that will allow people to create a story of humanity And this will not only focusing on empower other people or get to reach, a part of people, but the entire, community. Mm-hmm. So everyone doing in all what we are doing. So the community is get empowered of your solution, but also you get also empowered through the impact that the community is facing. And in return, I can say that there is more award out of there that are waiting for you to reward you. Not this money that you are hoping to generate from the community, but the impact that you are making within the community will reward you in return.
I would say that there's a huge lesson that we could all take from your story, is that it's the co-creation that it takes to build these solutions, and to do that within the community is something that we typically don't see within normal business. Business as usual is a lot of times profit for the owners, profit for the business itself and employees, but in essence, it's not really meant for a strong uplifting of the community. But in reality, when we do tap into the community and serve the community, the business thrives and the community thrives together. And that is something that's a lot of times it should be common sense. Like, it should be just something that we do, right? But we get, I think, distracted by the bottom line, by other things that are less important than the products and services that are serving the people, for the community, right? And the solutions that you're building for the community is really what it should be based on. And I think we can definitely learn from the work that you've been accomplishing. Really, out of necessity, you can't do it alone. It has to be with someone, right? You have to do it with the community, alongside the community, as a part of the community. So yeah, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for being a part of this regenerative movement. And as a regenerative entrepreneur, it's a huge inspiration to see the work that you're doing. How can we stay in touch with your work? How can we follow you and help where we can? Please share the ways that we can get involved.
Yeah, so we have already designed a website that is describe our work, and we are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So I think if you go to this social media, you can find us there, and all our action that we are doing to reach our vision of regenerating, transforming, like if a refugee came to a regenerative community.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I'm connected with you on LinkedIn and on Facebook, I believe. So we can find you there. What's the website's name again?
Unidos Projects.org.
Dot what? What's the dot?
.org.
So we'll have that in the show notes for everybody but it's Unidos organization, and we'll get that out to everybody. So please, if you're listening, join Paulinho's journey and help to bring awareness to the work that he's doing in his community, and let's work as a community to build our more regenerative solutions and help one another. So thanks again for all that you're doing. Is there any last words that you want to share with the audience today, Paulinho, before we head out and go out to your garden, obviously, this evening?
So I think I'm really excited to be part of this podcast because it's something that is unusual. I can say that, and that's a refugee being part of a podcast or making conversation and meetings. So I think I'm really grateful to Joshua to organize this podcast, and let's figure a way on how to create a best future and a resilient community for refugees. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulinho. All right, everybody. Bye for now and have a wonderful day.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. It really is a blessing and a pleasure to bring each episode to you. So what'd you think? If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review or follow us on the podcast platform of your choice. Each review really does help us to further the reach of this podcast and move our mission forward to build regenerative economies in every bioregion. If you have a suggestion or feedback for us, please let us know in the open and free Regenerative Business Economies Network, known as RegenBen, which is linked in the description and in the show notes of this episode. RegenBen also has an awesome community request form that allows you to suggest guests, register to be a guest on the podcast, and share your own regenerative entrepreneur startup story, or any other suggestion you may have for the community. Without your feedback and requests, this podcast and community wouldn't be what it is, so please let us know. Now, this may be bye for now, but remember, it doesn't end here. It has only just begun. The regenerative economies of the future start now with you.